Right, today I want to tie a variation of Hoflands Fancy. It's a very, very good general purpose fly on our river. It was invented by Mr. T.C. Hofland, who was a North Country angler and by all accounts a very good angler. But the fly can be used anywhere in the UK. I've used it on our local rivers. It's a very good fly. Very good dry fly. I'm going to tie it on a size 14. It's the Camazan B400, and it's a fairly standard tie-in for a fly. So if you can tie this, and it's fairly straightforward, you'll be able to tie most dry flies. Okay, now I've waxed the silk, and I'm going to put it on. I'll give it 3 forward, 1, 2, 3. Now I take the silk down to the bend, and I want you to note I'm leaving a tail of silk here because that's going to be used later to rib the body of the fly. Okay, we're down to there, and I'm going to put on the tail. This is a predominantly brown fly, so I'm going to use the tail from a large, good quality Rhode Island red feather. On my dry flies, I don't mind a longish tail. So some may think it's a bit too long. When you put a tail on a fly, draw the tail towards your body because sometimes it can roll over. I'll just remove this bit of surplus here. Like that. So that's the tail and the rib. Now the body is one I like very much. It's a herl. This is either a swan or a goose feather that I picked up down the river, and I brought it home and I dyed it. In the process of dyeing it, you also eliminate any bugs and what have you. So I'm going to put this in now, and it's a fairly straightforward. Now this is a lovely body because it doesn't hold water, it floats nicely, and I use it a lot on flies. Now I want you to see, I'm going to cut a slip off like that, a slip of feather. And you've got a shiny side or a dull side. I just give it a bit of a fold to get the dull side showing. No particular reason, and I don't think it matters too much. But we always tie in by the tip to give that sort of carrot shape that a natural fly has. Okay, now we've got the tail, we've got the material for the body, and I'm going to take the silk up now because I'm going to put the wings on. The wings I'm going to use mallard wings. I cut them from the mallard primary wings. Mr. Hofland, he used woodcock wings. I've got woodcock wings. I've got plenty of them, but to me they're a bit soft and a bit brittle. They're lovely for a wet fly, and they've got very attractive markings. But I'm a fan of wing cutters, as you know, from a hen cape. But if I'm going to put feather fibre wings on like this, wing slips, I like the mallard because it's a tougher feather and it's easier to apply. Now, just while we're talking about wings, you can see I've got pairs of them here, and I just want to show you and tell you how and why I do this. You can see where I've cut some off on different feathers, and I do this with all my feather wing slips. Now if you buy your wings, complete wings, I sit down on my bench and I put one wing on the left and one wing on the right, and I methodically nip off each primary in turn with their little wire cutters like this. I take one from the left, I take one from the right, and then you've got this situation. I sometimes tear off that middle piece down the center and put them like that, and I simply put masking tape around them, and you can store them in your box, and you can work your way up as you cut off the feathers. Now this is how we do it. You've probably seen me do it before. One from each side like that. And I'm going to nip them off. Excuse me, out of view a minute. Because they land on the floor if I'm not careful. And I want them to land on the bench. Okay. There's one, and this is the other. Now I pair them up. Again, I'm out of camera, so I ask you to bear with me a little with this. I'm putting them on like this. Now this, I'm going to apply them in what we call the pinch and loop method. The pinch and loop, you bring up your silk in between your finger and thumb and you pinch tight and draw down. And if I've done it right, these roots should come up. It's a bit scary on camera sometimes because if anything goes wrong, it goes wrong on camera. But that's not bad. That's not bad at all. I'm quite sort of pleased with that. Now, I'm going to wind them on a bit tighter. And that's how I've got them. Now, there's a couple of stray fibres that may not matter, but while I'm here, I'll nip them out. And I will remove some of these. Not all of them, just some of them, because I will show you what I intend to do in a moment. Now, while the wings are like that, I get my silk, I draw them up and I get my silk behind them and give a few winds to help them to stand up. Right, they're there. These fibres now, I will draw back and tie them down behind the wings. A little bit fiddly to do this, but it's worth doing because it sort of gives the thorax and ensures the wings stay up well. Okay, I've got most of them back there, so now they'll sort of support the wing from behind. You don't have to do it. You can tie the wings down in front, the roots down in front. If you do that, sometimes it can distort your hackles when you put them on. Okay, here we go. I'm going to remove these roots now. It's a little bit fiddly, but as I say, it's worth doing. And it secures the wings nice and tight. Nip these off like this, taking care you don't cut the silk or anything else. They come in okay. They come in okay. It's just a bit of patience. I'm going to tilt the fly so I can see the ones over this side. Like that. One underneath there. And I'll be tidying this up in a moment. Okay, there's the wings. Now, the position, we'll be positioning them shortly. I'll just shorten my silk, otherwise I'll be hitting the camera lens. Now this helps a bit to taper the body. I'll be winding the herl on in a moment. Yeah, they're going to be okay. Right, now then, the herl body. This does make a really nice body. I'm a big fan of it. You can dye white feathers any colour you like. They come out very well in olive. They come out in, they make a lovely olive body. I do blacks, I do various colours, and as I say, I am a big fan of it. Heron was very, very popular years ago, but of course you can't, no one wants to kill a heron these days, but it is another nice feather. But if you use goose or swan, it's to me it's just as good, but it may not have that fancy colour of the heron. Goose or swan is okay, just dye it the colour you want. Snip out these fibres. One more there I can see. Get that one. You can see the uses of the dubbing needle, where you can pick things up to tie them down. Just while I'm talking about dubbing needles, a little tip. This is an aluminium one. Every time I put it down on my bench, the damn thing rolled away. So I filed a flat on it, so it doesn't fold away now. Okay, that's the wing on, and I'm going to bring my silk up towards the eye, and I'm going to put this rib on. And I wound the herl body over. I'm going to do the opposite with the rib. Most ribs are counter wound, and this rib is going under. It's hardly noticeable, but it does help to protect the body a bit, makes it a bit more durable, and in addition to that, it tends to give a bit of segmentation to the body, but that doesn't matter too much. Now you see I'm doing a few around the head end because my silk, to secure it, is tending to push it the other way. This is what can happen when you want to tie down something that's being counter wound. Anyway, that's worked out fine. Nip off the surplus silk that formed the rib. I can see I've got a stray bit of fibre of some kind here. Okay, now the last item is the hackle. I'm using a reddish brown, fox brown hackle again. Mr. Hofland used a brown one, and this is basically his fly. Slight variation, but nonetheless we come back to the very good general pattern. I put my hackles, dry fly hackles, on in a figure of 8, so they're at this 90 degree like this. They tie down better. You can see the stalk, which I'm now going to tie down, get the stalk back, and that stops the hackle pulling out when I go to wind it, and I put my silk up towards the eye. Now I've got to get that stalk because it sticks out, so just bear with me. Dubbing needle again to trace it. I don't know if you can see it there. If I tilt the fly you may be able to see it sticking up. Anyway, I can see it, so I'm going to nip it off. I go in tight and I nip it off. Okay, I'm going to wind the hackle. I like to give a couple of winds behind the wings, not too important, but it helps to keep them up, and I think it looks natural. I haven't actually put a separate thorax on this fly. The thorax area is on a natural fly is like a big muscle. It's where the wings are attached, and also the legs. And this is what I'm imitating here. My hackle's a little bit short. I tend to be a bit economical and try to use up. If I got any short hackles left, I try to put them on. Okay, I'm giving a couple of winds here just to hold it while I temporarily secure it. My silk is a little bit loose in the bobbin holder. I should have tightened it before starting. Okay, I'm going to nip off the hackle. As usual, go in with it closed, your scissors closed till you get right up to it, and then nip it off. Okay, now I'm going to bend these back to form the head. I will again use my cotton bud, which just drawn back like this gives me a cleaner head to wind on. You see the advantage of these mallard wings. I'm doing this, I'm being a bit brutal with them, but they always come back. Okay, now I'm going to do the whip finish to secure the whole fly. 1 wind, 2 winds, 3 winds, 3 enough on a dry fly. It's a size 14, it's not too big. I draw it up gently and remove my dubbing needle, my scissors, cut the silk as usual, a gape, bit of tension. See the fly flex in there in the vise? So you pull it towards you, put it under tension, bit of a gape, and gently push with your silk, with your scissors, and you won't see any of the precious hackles fall off. When I say precious, I don't mean in value. I mean we need them on the fly to help it float. That's the main function of these hackles. Okay, I'm now going to varnish the head. On a small fly, I tend to do this. Just pick up the varnish off the brush. And I put it on like this. Again, off the brush. You don't need very much. Varnish the head. And it runs in. I'm going to clear the eye in a moment and position the wings. I clear the eye, you've seen me do it before I'm sure, with an old hackle which is always lying on the bench, up through the eye or down through the eye, and draw it like that, and it has the bottle brush effect. I know you can use your dubbing needle like this, but the old hackle that you don't need is the better way. Right, I'm going to position these wings. Now you'll see how durable they are when I do this to them. I'm going to flatten them down a bit like this and put a blob of varnish deep in the roots, and when that varnish goes hard it will have set the wings. Just like that. I hope to show you in a mo. If I tilt the fly, you can see where I've put it. While it's soft, I get the wings to where I want them. I don't want them too closed up, and I don't want them too far apart, because if they're too far apart, the fly could spin when you cast it. But I want a little parting in them, about like that, because that helps the fly to land on the water gently, and it gives a more natural look to the fly. Okay, now that's a Hoflands Fancy variant. Very, very good general purpose fly, originally invented to imitate a beetle, believe it or not. It's not like a beetle, to me anyway, it isn't, but it is a very good general purpose fly you could use any time down the river, especially the Ogmo or the Aweni. I hope you enjoyed that, and I thank you for watching it.